Hey guys, what is going on? It is your good buddy Sam, and it is time for another exciting, even an enchanting Maximus P tutorial. How it will enchant you, I don't know, but look, I can't be bothered to explain everything that I say. In any case, this is, I know it's been a long time since the last one of these tutorials, and I feel very bad about that. I was in Barcelona, and the opportunity never really presented itself to make one of these, and now I'm actually in Jerusalem, and there's even fewer opportunities to make these tutorials. But what can I say? I'm ebullient. I'm overflowing with the need to make one of these. So let's do it. What do you say? I'm here. You're here. Let's go through with it. So what I want to do. This one's call this an appetizer. An amuse-bouche, whatever. I don't know if this is necessarily the most utilitarian max patch, but it shows off some cool concepts and it's a bit of fun. So basically I'm going to take the video image as it's coming in and use it to actually make a waveform. So the video is literally going to become sound and then we're going to listen to it. And spoiler alert, it's not going to sound good. Well, good, bad, I can't be asked to make these distinctions. So whatever, it's going to sound. It's good or bad. It is definitely going to sound. We are going to hear something. So I'm going to start, as you might expect, with a JIT.grab. This will get our webcam. I'm going to make it type float32, and the dimensions are going to be 320 by 240. No, sorry, we need a Q Metro here. Q Metro 33. So every time we turn on this Q Metro, every time this Q Metro sends out a bang, it's going to get a new frame from jit.qt.grab. And if we make a jit.p window, we can all look at my face together, which will be very exciting. So we'll connect this like this, and then turn this on, and make this open. And there I am. Wonderful. It's maybe for the best that you can't really see my face. It's not. I'm not at my most fashionable these days. I was Skyping with my father, and when he looked at me, he said, "Sam, just because you've gone to Jerusalem doesn't mean you actually have to look like Jesus Christ." And it's what can I say? It's embarrassing. I haven't been. Let's focus on Max, shall we? Let's not focus on outward appearances. Let's focus on don't judge a patch by its cover. They never say. So there's our JIT.grab. First thing to do, convert this to black and white, to grayscale. So JIT.RGB RGB2 Luma. This just takes your red, green, blue matrix and converts it to a black and white matrix. Just to be absolutely positive, let's call this float32. So there's me converted to grayscale. It weights the red, green, and blue differently, adds them together, and gives you a black and white image like this. Now what I want to do is take this image, which is two-dimensional. It's 320 by 240, or 320 by 240, and collapse it down to one line. So what I'm going to do is use this object called jit.dimop. It's going to add pixels across a dimension, in this case the y dimension, and add them together into a single value. So basically we're going to take this whole matrix and squish it. Jit.dimop at up average at step, which is the step size across each dimension, 1 for the left-right dimension, and 240 for the up-down dimension, because we want to squash the whole thing into a single line. And that is going to look like this. There you go. See, we've got a black band where my head is, and then everything else is light. And if I hold up my arms, I can add in 2 more black bands. It's very exciting. Cool, so having done that, the next thing to do is take this matrix, which is now technically 320 by 1, and I want to turn it into a 256 sample matrix, because we're going to be... any real reason to do that? No, I guess there's no real reason to do it, so forget it. Let's leave it the way it is, 320 by 1. Now let's make a map object, dit.map. And so right now all the sample values are between 0 and 1. I'd like them to be between 0 and, or -1 and 1. So we're going to use jit.map, which is going to take, it's like scale actually. It's exactly the same as scale, except it works on matrices. So if a cell's value is 0, it's going to map it to -1, and if a cell's value is 1, it's going to map it to 1. Everything in between will just get stretched out to fill that range. So jit.map at map 0, 1, -1 to 1. And I forgot something, which is to normalize this matrix. JIT.normalize, JIT.normalize at type float32. This just makes it so that the values will always be at their most extreme between 0 and -1, or rather between 0 and 1, just because I'm a very extreme person and I like things to be extreme. So that this should look pretty much like it does. Excellent. Cool, so now we actually want to put this into a matrix. No, sorry, into a buffer, not a matrix, so we can listen to it. So we're going to do JIT dot, and now we're using a fancy object you might not use very often, JIT.JITBuff, no, JIT.buffer. JIT.buffer tilde. And JIT.buffer tilde is literally just an MSP buffer that you access using jitter. Simple as that. I'm going to call mine JITBuff, and I'm going to give it the length of 15 milliseconds and 1 channel. I'm going to connect that like this. And now, if everything worked correctly, and I'm not totally sure that it did, if I make a waveform tilde and give it the buffer name JITBuff, we should see, I didn't do it right, crap, something is characters when it should be floats. So let's do at type float32, did that fix it? No, it's still garbage. At type, nope, doesn't have a type argument. See, these are float32s. Are these float32s? At type float32. Now it's still coming through as garbage. Maybe I need to do a JIT.matrix 1 float32 320 at adapt 0 at interp 1. Is this going to do things for me? If I connect this to this and this to this. Yeah, there we go. Oh, but map still screwed it up. Okay, so it needs to be, I wonder where it needs to be like this. If I delete this and delete this and move this to here and this to here, will this fix it? Sort of. No, I did this too early. Okay, so after this dim up, I'm going to convert the matrix to a form that jitter likes. Okay, so the rub here, the thing that's going on in case it's, I know it's very confusing what happened, but basically, there we go. So basically this, I needed this dim up matrix, this JIT.buffer expects you to actually give it a one-dimensional matrix. So it expected the matrix to come in a form that was 320 by nothing, just a one-dimensional matrix. And I was giving it a matrix that was 320 by 1, and that was screwing it up. So I used a JIT.matrix here to force the matrix to be 320 by 1, and that's what JIT.buffer wanted, and that's why this is all working now. So this is actually what's in our buffer. It's pretty cool. It's 320 samples, and you can sort of see that the dark samples here are where my head is, and the light samples here are the background. And if I move my head back and forth, you can see it's changing the shape of the sound. And the last thing to do, man, I want to listen to this. Let's hear what it sounds like. So let's make a phaser. Let's give it the argument 100. Sounds pretty good to me. Multiply that by, we have 320 samples in here, so let's multiply that by 320. And then we're going to use the play tilde object that expects milliseconds, not samples. So we'll use a samps to milliseconds object. And finally, last but not least, we will have a play tilde object with addressing the buffer JITBuff. And one other thing let's throw a scope over here so we can see it. And the scope is going to need many fewer. I'm going to change the cal count, which is the samples per pixel, down to like 2, because this is going to be a high frequency sound, not a low frequency sound. And that's a little bit, what if I make it like 4? Is that more sane? Maybe 8? Maybe 16? Maybe 32? I suck at this. Maybe 18? Let's make it 9. No, too fast. 10? It's an informative tutorial. You're now informed as to how much I suck at this. 9 again? 7? There we go. That's pretty good. Okay. So check it out. You can see in our phaser down here, that's the actual waveform. That's what we're going to... And as I move my junk around, you can see it's actually reshaping the wave. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, so let's listen to it now. JIT... No. Live.gain at channels 1. And if we hook this up to an easy DAC, make it a little quieter before we destroy everyone's eardrums. And let's hear what it sounds like. Cool. Okay, and now I should be able to reshape it by moving around. That's so stupid. Like I said, maybe not the most useful patch in the entire world, but at least it's something. It encourages you to dance, because then the waveform becomes more interesting. This, incidentally, is my dance. This is, anytime I go out dancing, this is what I do. And if you're asking if women find it attractive, the answer is, well, listen, thanks for watching. That's a very simple little trick. Play around with some waveforms, impress your friends, stun your enemies. And what can I say? Thanks for watching. I'm going to try to be borderline religious, if you'll excuse the pun, about posting these videos while I am here in Jerusalem. So look forward to many more, and as always, thanks very much for watching. I hope that was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. And I will see you guys around. Thanks very much. Ciao.